Today we're going to be talking about language. Specifically, we're going to be talking about language, gendered language, as it relates to the article by Deborah Tannen called The Power of Talk and Chapter 5 of our text. But let's begin our conversation. My Israeli friend's mom was once fired from the Girl Scouts because she was too much of a loud talker. Remember the loud talker? That was the guy from Seinfeld who talked so loud that we had to stand back from him whenever he tried to have a conversation with us. Then there was also the low talker who you had to get so close to them that you couldn't tell who or what they were talking about. So this is all about starting a conversation and how loud talking and low talking, pausing, rapid talk, all can have influences on the way we begin to understand and perceive the way people are. My Israeli friend's mom was fired from the Girl Scouts because she was a loud talker. There's nothing wrong with the way she talked. It was a cultural way that Israelis learned from the very beginning of their lives in order to get a word in edgewise. They're very loud, boisterous, bombastic people. This was misinterpreted in a very quiet sense, and then she was interpreted or perceived to be pushy, domineering, and not a good leader. But when you have a great idea, perhaps, and somehow someone else gets the credit, that's also a relationship between language and the way we talk. I would like you to take a minute and leave this conversation for a while and go to YouTube and find the Ricky Bobby dinner sequence and watch that, and then come back and then think about these things when I continue the video. In the Ricky Bobby sequence, did anybody get a word in edgewise, or was somebody always dominating the conversation? The ways we speak are learned in childhood, and it affects their judgments regarding confidence and competence. And I think this is very strongly shown within the Ricky Bobby sequence. Deborah Tannen is the person who we're going to think about when we're talking about Ricky Bobby and the idea of social linguistics. When we have talk, we are actually having an utterance that functions on two levels. The first level we all probably know. That's that language communicates ideas. But the second level is a little bit more less known and a bit more invisible. It is a form of power, where language also helps us negotiate relationships. And as you saw in the Ricky Bobby example, there was the power to interrupt, there was the power to control content of the conversation, there was the power to respond or opinionate about certain things that were said, and there was the power of respect, or what is perceived to be respectful within the framework of the family. If you think about the Ricky Bobby example, who has the highest status in that family? If you answered Ricky Bobby, I think you would be correct. He has the highest status, but how do you know? He has the highest status because, one, he controlled the content. He was in charge of the prayer. He even named the Jesus, the baby Jesus, which was a point of contention within the family. He also corrected people, he interrupted people, but he was in absolute control of the entire conversation, even though people tried to take that control away from him. Who do you think had the lowest status in that example? If you answered the grandfather, I think you would be right. The grandfather often tried to make specific comments about the way they were raising the children, the disrespect he felt, but it was completely ignored and actually used as a comedy sequence. So how do you know? We know because people like Deborah Tannen have told us that power can be used within the framework of language in order to control and keep control. The power of talk, the games we play, the peers that we play these games with, and social structures all are taken into consideration when we think of how powerful talk is. Gender is also taken into consideration when we think about the power of talk, and that's what we're going to focus on today. If we look at the table of Ricky Bobby, it was all men except for one person, that was his smoking hot wife. And she was actually ridiculed and put down within the framework of that sequence also. So let's think about, what is gender? What seems natural for a male will differ from what seems natural for a female. And the way we talk is a very naturalized, personal way and method. And we learn these speeches from the day we start to live, from the day we are born. And these speech patterns continue to influence us all the way up until we are working. So think about the games we play. I put in the PowerPoint slides 4 slides that represent the way children play and the way adults play. On the top right-hand side, we see the example of little girls at play. And with little girls, we know that girls usually will play in small social circles. They play more cooperative games. They are more likely to play with a best friend. They're also more likely to play indoors than outdoors, and are more likely to play in pairs. Boys, on the other hand, the bottom left-hand side, are often play in large teams with competition as the goal. They don't have best friends, but they have best teammates, and team is crucial for little boys. And there is a high respect for the better man, the better player. And this boy plays a large social, influential role in the language and the control of all situations. As we grow older, these things change a little bit, but they still stay basically the same. For the women, it's still the small social circle, close-knit, tight together, playing indoors, over a cup of coffee, talking together to sort out problems. For men, on the bottom right-hand side, it's about power. It's about competition. If you look at the way these men are looking at each other, the way they're standing, one is holding a power position, his arms are crossed, he is protecting himself, and the other man is open and leaning forward. Which man do you think is the man in power, and which man do you think is the person who is trying to keep any kind of power? If you said the man at the top has power, I think you would be right. He's more comfortable, he's more open. The man at the bottom is closed off and trying to get power by his nonverbal communication. But today we're going to talk about language. So let's consider language and how language and talk actually conveys power. For Deborah Tannen, she calls this linguistic style. And she defines it one way as a person's characteristic speaking pattern. It's just the way that we learned how to talk. But it's a little bit more than that. It includes things like, are we more direct or are we more indirect in our talk? It includes things like, do we take long pauses or short pauses? Are we fast talkers, pacing very quickly, or are we slow talkers, pacing very slowly? There's also the idea of word choice. What words are used by different people is an influence to linguistic style. And then selection of elements into your talk is part of linguistic style. The choice of what jokes you tell, what stories you tell, and what figures of speech you use. These all together, combined, make your specific linguistic style. She also defines it in her article as a set of culturally learned signals by which we not only communicate what we mean, but also interpret other people's meanings and then evaluate one another. And I think that's very crucial to understanding the power of talk, that idea that we use it to evaluate other people. And the lessons that we learned are carried over from childhood, and they carried right over into the workplace. And the example that the article talked about was the example of Phil and Cheryl. And Phil and Cheryl were in a meeting together, a meeting with about 6 people, 3 men and 3 women. In this meeting, it was very cooperative meeting where a lot of decisions had to be made on the way they were going to change an operating system within the framework of the office where they were working. And when the meeting ended, people came out and said it was very productive. They liked the way that the ideas that emerged out of the meeting. But when Deborah Tannen started talking to the people within the meeting, and they asked whose ideas were decided to be the most important, almost all the people said it was Phil. Phil was the most important person in the meeting. Phil's ideas drove the meeting. But when she went back and actually looked at the tape recordings of the meeting, she noticed that Cheryl was making the suggestions and Phil was agreeing with Cheryl. And the interpretation, the perception then of this meeting was that Phil took charge and Cheryl stepped back. So the perception was, within the framework of her talk, she was cooperating, he was taking control and taking the meeting and using those the way her suggestions, not necessarily as his own, but as a way to advance certain ideas that he found to be the best. And so it was an interesting side view that we have Phil and Cheryl. They felt that they both contributed equally, but when the perceptions of the other people within the framework of that meeting, they gave most of the credit to Phil. So Phil actually was learning and using that power up language style that men use and learn from the get-go. Some people, some scholars actually refer to this as cross-cultural communication. The idea that genders come from different cultures, that there's a masculine culture and there's a feminine culture. And that's what I want you to think about for the rest of the slides. Think about this cross-cultural communication and how even within the framework of men and women, we can muddy up and really screw up the way that we come to understand each other. For Deborah Tannen, she claims that there are gender differences in the ways we speak, and that we need to identify and understand them in order to avoid needlessly blaming others or ourselves or a relationship for our conversational styles. So we have to understand gender in order to be better conversationalists, in order to be better talkers and language stylistic people. If you remember from previous classes, we talked about both rapport talk and report talk. And this is Deborah Tannen's idea of the different masculine and feminine ways of talking. For rapport talk, it's a more feminine style. It's not necessarily the style of women, so don't get that confused. It's a feminine style of communicating. It's a way that we use it to form connections. It's a way we use to form cooperative, and we use cooperative metaphors within this framework. And it's when we have from a power down position. So rapport talk is from a power down position, and report talk is from a power up position. In rapport talk, we often use we statements. Pronoun usage can give the illusion of control. Think about it. If I say, I'm hiring a manager and I'm putting him into control of my marketing division, that says sends a different message than if I said, we are hiring a new marketing manager and we're going to put her into control of our marketing division. So it frames the decision and the control instead of from one person, it puts it into a more cooperative venture. And that is rapport talk. Report talk is masculine. Report talk has a hierarchy to it. Report talk uses competitive metaphors. And report talk is power up or power over. And in report talk, we use I statements. So both men and women use both rapport and report talk, but they actually show power in different ways. And women tend to use we metaphors, cooperation, and rapport talk, and men tend to be linear, masculine, use hierarchy, and the power up I statements. So think about it. Are you confident, or are you just boasting? It can be interpreted differently depending on what style of language you're using. Women are enculturated to tend to downplay their contributions to things, as in the example with Phil and Cheryl. She downplayed her contributions even though she was the one that was actually making the suggestions that everyone agreed with. Phil, on the other hand, took those suggestions and made him his own, and then everyone remembered that Phil was the one who controlled the meeting. So power. Women tend to use what are called powerless speech mannerisms, and we're enculturated, we're taught this. Men use power-up speech mannerisms. And this may be a little refresher course from when we had class before, but powerless speech mannerisms include things like hedges, where I say, I guess I'd like it to be this, but I'm not quite sure. So you're hedging your statement before you even say it. You can also hesitate before you say something, say, and you use those kinds of filling, and I'm doing it right now, filling statements in order to take a little bit of time in order to catch your breath and to think of what you're going to say next. But women are more likely to use hesitations than men. Women also use more intensifiers, so that's how I feel. They'll use intensifiers, we'll use intensifiers as we will punctuate words in a different way than men. We will also say things like, that's the way I feel, or it's my emotions are driving me. So intensifiers are often influenced by how emotion. Polite forms, women use more polite forms. Women are more likely to say, excuse me, but could I use your pencil for a minute? Whereas a more masculine form is, are you using that pencil? Can I have it? And then women are more likely to use something called a tag question, which is a question that comes after the statement, which actually shows that you're not quite sure of what you're saying. For example, I think that disclaimers are the worst thing women can ever do to their speech patterns. Do you think I'm right? That would be a tag question. So disclaimers are things that we use to disclaim something that we are going to say. I'm no expert, but I think we need to do it this way. I've never really driven a backhoe, but I think it would be fun. So we use these disclaimers. Whereas men don't usually use these things. A masculine form of speech just doesn't include these kind of speech patterns. And so if you're a manager and you're having to decide who gets the promotion and you're trying to figure out who is the person with the most confidence, with the most competent way of speaking, and you're and you use masculine style, you might misinterpret or perceive a woman's style of language that uses these kinds of questions and speech mannerisms as less confident and less competent. And so you might be then not passed up for some sort of promotion because of the perception of your boss in this manner. Okay. We also have something called ritualized talk, and Americans are really bad at ritualized talk. One of the best examples of Americans in ritualized talk is when you say, hi, how are you? And I think all North Americans generally do that. We're not really interested in how people are. It's just a ritualized greeting that we have. But that's not true in all cultures. In some cultures, if I don't answer you in a truthful way, that could be perceived as actually a cultural slap, or I was dissing you, or you're really not interested in me, and you don't want to say hello at all. But more than that, within the framework of ritualized talk, there's all sorts of things like, how do you apologize? Let me give you an example. Apologies. What does the term "I'm sorry" mean? Let me give you a scenario. Catherine and Bob have just come from a big presentation. And Catherine says to Bob, "How did that big presentation go?" And Bob says, "Oh, not well. I got a lot of flack from the vice president for finance. I didn't have the numbers at my fingertips. He really, was really ticked." And then Catherine says, "Oh, I'm sorry. I know how hard you worked on that." And what does sorry mean in this context? For Catherine, it means she's not really sorry that he got yelled at. She's sorry that she's expressing some sort of concern that he had a bad experience, because she did know how much he worked and how hard he worked on that presentation. So if she talks in this way, it's more feminized, ritualized talk. Males tend to not want to apologize or admit fault. And let me give you an example of that. For example, Deborah Tannen talks about a conversation. It was a phone conference between a group of lawyers that she was doing an analysis of their conversation. And one of the lawyers, not in the room, dropped the phone, and actually the connection between the people in the room and the person who was external broke. And so they had to call up the other person, they had to reconnect on the phone and get the phone conference back up. But instead of saying, "Sorry, I dropped the phone, I hit it with my elbow, what a dutz," the lawyer actually said, "Hey, what happened? 1 minute you were there and the next minute you were gone." So even when there's something as benign as an accidental phone being disconnected, the male is enculturated to not apologize. There's really no need to apologize. I think that if a woman had been the person to knock the phone off the hook and disconnect everybody, you might have gotten, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm total klutz. I must have hit that with my elbow, and let's try again." So automatic impulses, even for a guy, there's no fault that needs to be even admitted to. So there's this ritualized talk within apologies that differ between men and women. There's also there's a great difference in the way we give feedback. And the case that Deborah Tannen talks about is the case of the unwritten revision, and I've experienced this with students on several occasions. A student has come up to me and they asked me for a critique, or could you critique this and give me some feedback on my paper. And so I try to always start with something positive and say, "Well, you really did good. Your opening paragraph was pretty strong. I think that you did a really nice job previewing your main points, but here's where I think you need to make improvements. And I think you need to make improvements by perhaps using less passive voice, or by using better transitions, or here you didn't support your statement. That really doesn't build your credibility." So I go through and I pinpoint the different places where the student can improve the writing. And Deborah Tannen talks about this too, with a manager talking to her subordinate about a revision on a report that he needed to write. And she started off in exactly the same way. She gave him positive feedback of what he did well, and then she enumerated the things that he didn't do well. When she got the report back, he had only made minor revisions and had not made any of the major revisions that the manager had enumerated within their conference. And she couldn't understand why he didn't follow through with the things that she thought were more important. Well, actually, within the framework of this cross-cultural communication and the language of talk and power, he misinterpreted her as saying that the dominant part of his report was actually good, and that he only had to make minor revisions on these little other things. And so she was trying to frame a critique by being very positive in the beginning, and he would have probably been more responsive if she had flipped it. So we have to think about these differences in gender when we are thinking about how talk, and ritualized talk especially, can convey power. The idea of compliments is also part of this idea of ritualized talk. And the way Tannen talks about is when ritual responses go awry. And we find that if someone misinterprets a compliment as a sexual come-on, when you tell a joke that maybe is, you think compliments someone, all these things can really make a benign situation into a power situation where you may think, for example, I think the example Tannen gives is that the woman and the man have both give a very an outstanding presentation, and the woman says, Phil, your presentation was fantastic. What'd you think of mine? And then he begins to enumerate everything she did wrong. And he's thinking this is a compliment to her. He is complimenting her by giving her ways for her to be better. She interprets that actually as he's criticizing me and he doesn't care about anything that I did well. So the idea of compliments can be ritualized within gender also. And finally, there's the idea of ritual fighting. And women tend not to do this at all, but men do this a lot, and I've actually seen that. I saw this happen today, where someone challenges ideas and defends their position, and it sounds like they're absolutely they're going to start to go to blows at any second. And then immediately, it's been resolved. 20 minutes later, the guys are out in the hallway and they're laughing, and you walk up to them, didn't you just have a fight about this? Sure, but that was 5 minutes ago. It's over, we're done. Women just can't do that. And I think we've all experienced that, where ritualized fighting just does not exist within the framework of our talk. And think about the way we learn to play. That's where the guys learn this really brilliant way of ritualized fighting. And I think it's getting better. I think women are learning to be more competitive, and we're now more involved in things like sports, and we do have more access to ritualized fighting. So I think it's getting better, but we still tend to not understand how guys can be fighting in 1 second and be best friends in the next. So let's build a little bit on Tannen. Now that you know, what can you do? So now that you know a little bit about ritualized fighting, the difference in compliments, power over, power down, now that you've been exposed to things like rapport talk and report talk, let's talk about things specifically from the chapter, the end of chapter 5, and then at the end try to connect this to what Tannen was talking about when she talks about how the power of talk is sometimes so invisible that we don't even notice it. And the first thing I want you to think about within the framework of the chapter is the idea of sexist or sexism. Sexist language is defined in the chapter in our text as words and phrases that unnecessarily differentiate between males and females or diminish either sex. So, for example, what do these mean? When we say she mothered her children, what is that? How is that different from he fathered his children? Well, when we say she mothered her children, we're talking about her behavior. We're talking about the way she interacts with her children. There's that cooperative way. In he fathered his children, there's an assumption that fathering means only injecting sperm into an egg and creating the child. So it's the biological thing. We would never say he fathers his children when he's interacting with them. So there's this underscore of sexism even in what is often looked at as very benign statements about how we talk about raising our kids. We can combat sexism in a couple of different ways. First, we can eliminate those sex-specific terms. I've said this before, but we have to get rid of the generic he because there is no such thing as the generic he. And there is a way to speak neutrally without being so tied to being politically correct. But you can say, not man-made, but you can say things like artificial. And then that makes more sense than being, everything is not man-made. But it can be artificially made, and not naturally made. I also think we need to eliminate the idea of spotlighting, and that's more than saying a female firefighter or a male nurse. It's putting the spotlight on gender in some way, shape, or form. And I took this right out of the newspaper a couple days ago. Many people were injured, including women and children. That's a very subtle way of saying women and children aren't people. It's subtle, but it's there. And we don't notice it because it seems so natural. But that's really a sexist statement. It implies that people are male and adult, and that non-people are women and children. So there's a tie to language and power that's both within sexism and racism. And there's 3 different kinds of sexism and racism. The first one is overt. Overt sexism and racism is that stuff that's open and deliberate. You can tell it from a mile away. It's harmful, it's unequal treatment that is intentional, it's visible and unambiguous. There's no question about it. If someone says you are a faggot, you are a nigger, that is overt racism, okay? You talk like a girl, what a wimp, what a pussy, that is overt sexism. So it's deliberate, it's harmful, it's unequal treatment. Subtle sexism is a little bit harder to see. It can be either hidden or unnoticed because it's built into our cultural and social norms. For example, when people are treated or even ignored differently. For example, there's a famous Harvard professor who locked himself out of the house I think it was about 2 years ago, and he lives in a predominantly upscale neighborhood, mansions. And he locked himself out of the house, and he was trying to get back in. He was trying to find the hidden key. And he was rooting around out in front, trying to get the key out of the hidden key place. And someone called the cops and said there was a black man trying to break into a house. And he had just come out, and he was like dressed in sweatpants. He didn't have his ID with him. He was just going out for the paper and had locked himself out. So the cops came, they arrested him, and he says, "This is my house." They didn't believe that it was his house. Why would this black guy dressed as a bum be saying he lived in a mansion? And it took quite a lot of convincing for him to actually get unarrested, and it made headlines all over the world. Another example is when, for example, a woman, maybe a woman of color, a Latina or a black woman, can be waiting patiently to be waited on in a store. A white woman walks in, the white woman is more likely to be noticed and then waited on first. And a real telling one that happened quite recently happened to Oprah. Now Oprah, there's a new book that was just put out about her. The talk show, she's often talked about within the framework of her life by her physical appearance. I mean, we get pictures of her when she's fat, when she's thin, and they often focus on her physical appearance. And Kelly, who wrote the biography on Oprah, quotes a source who says, and I'm going to quote it exactly, "Oprah without hair and makeup is a pretty scary sight. But once her prep people do their magic, she becomes super glam. They narrow her nose and thin her lips with 3 different liners, and her hair, well, I can't even begin to describe the wonders they perform with her hair." So why does this description reek of subtle racism? Well, the source isn't just saying that she finds Oprah unattractive without the help of hair and makeup, but she's actually criticizing Oprah's blackness, the blackness of Oprah's features. Her nose is too wide, her lips are too big, and her hair is unmanageable. And that is the subtle racism that is occurring, because such features are all commonly associated with African Americans. And in short, the source is suggesting that Oprah is mainly unattractive because she is black. Another form of subtle sexism is in the representation of women in publishing and journalism and in writing. And one example I found was an example of in March of last year, 3 Newsweek journalists, women journalists, sued Newsweek magazine because they had seniority, but they weren't getting the column space as the 13 junior journalists that were men were getting. And so they said this was a form of subtle racism and sexism, in that even though they had seniority within the framework of the journalist staff, the younger guys were getting more bylines, and actually bigger articles were being published by them. And so they sued and they won. And then today, just today, I found there's a new study just came out about Wikipedia. This research that was done about Wikipedia found that only 13% of all the authors or contributors to Wikipedia were women. And so this is also a sign of subtle sexism, in that women, not only are women underrepresented as the authors and the publishers of the content, women's issues and things that women are interested in are then underrepresented within the framework of Wikipedia. So I encourage all the women in this class to go out and contribute to Wikipedia, and let's boost the numbers. Let's talk about the third one. We've had overt and subtle, but I think the most scariest one is covert sexism and racism. And covert sexism and racism is deliberate, and it's hidden. It's actually masked. It's deliberate, that it looks and sounds okay on the surface, but it's really, truly designed to be racist and sexist, to put people down. Covert racism and sexism are used to construct barriers that disable and oppress a group or a set of people. Some of these methods are covertly things like racial profiling, the use of racial stereotypes in order to make laws. For example, poor areas lack funding for education and arts, and they'll say, well, education, public education is based on the property taxes for the houses, and since poor people live in poor houses and their property isn't worth as much, they can't raise as much money for their education. Therefore, it's not our fault that they can't have better schools as the rich districts. When in reality, it could easily be distributed equally between all the districts. Car insurance rates. Car insurance rates in Canada are set by what postal code you live in. So if you live in a postal code that has a high crime rate, your car insurance rates are going to go up. It makes sense, doesn't it? The high crime area, your car insurance is probably going to cost more. But in reality, that's racial profiling, that's covert sexism, that's making a law based on an area, based on a group of people who live there. Also, another example is when people are denied high-paying jobs. More recently, one was on women in factory jobs who were denied the high-paying more jobs that, like within painting and doing robots and working with chemicals, because of the possible risks to their reproduction systems. And that also makes sense. You don't want to have women don't want to have children that have preventable birth defects because of extended exposure to chemicals, but we found over and over again that men also contribute to these birth defects, and women aren't the only ones that can do it, but women are often denied access to these jobs because of this covert sexism and racism that occurs. All right, let's end the class today with a discussion about interpersonal communication, specifically to language. And let's think about how gender really are distinctions that are built into language. I use this example of Max's Valentine. This is one of the most popular children's books out there. It has won lots and lots of awards, but it follows all the gender-specific language rules that we are very comfortable with in North America. And so if you begin reading these wonderful books to children, they're going to naturalize the area that mommy helps doing this, and Max is the little boy who makes the Valentine, and he sends it, and he has a Valentine, and his sister has a Valentine. And so we learn different ways that boys do it and girls do it from early ages, even in these cute little stories that we tell our children as books. Each person's life is a series of conversations. We are not living in isolation. We are always in some series of conversations with each other. And simply by understanding and using the words of our language, we all absorb and pass on different asymmetrical assumptions. And by asymmetrical, I mean with different power structures built in. And we do this from the time that we are born. So culture and language also makes a difference. Imagine when you have to translate something from one language into another language. It's very hard to get that nuance just right. It's almost impossible. Well, we're doing that every day within gender, and we're trying to translate and talk within ways that men and women can understand. There's differences in high versus low context cultures. Low context cultures rely very heavily on language. High context cultures rely on very subtle nonverbal cues, and so they do not rely on language. Then we also have verbal communication styles, which are either direct or indirect, elaborate or succinct, or very formal or informal. And that's what I'm going to wrap it up for today. I want you to go online and take quiz number 5 on your own. It's on chapter 5, this lecture, and the article that you read for today by Deborah Tannen. It's going to be available Friday, February 11th from 11 a.m. until 11 p.m. only. And you can use open books, you can pop open your PowerPoint slides, you can do whatever you want to do in order to answer these questions. So I expect everyone to get 100%. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed your day off, and I'll see you in class on next Tuesday.